Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here for you guys, and he's basically like, what do you think about all these experts, or could you talk about these experts who say that overtraining doesn't exist? So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this. Alright, this is always really funny when you do see people talk about this, and it's weird because people are kind of not accepting reality or understanding the reality of sports. And what I mean, they're like, okay, you can say what you want, yeah, professional athletes overtrain, but look at their workloads. Look how hard most of them have to train, to really reach a state of overtraining. Which again, when they say it doesn't exist, there's a conflict already. When they acknowledge that pro athletes absolutely overtrain. But let's look at that for a minute. That is not even subject to debate. The fact that overtraining itself is real isn't up for debate, and anyone who thinks that it is basically a moron. You shouldn't be listening to them. Their argument is, hopefully, if they're intelligent, that it's really hard to overtrain, so you're not likely to overtrain as a non-athlete. That's a separate argument, and we'll get to that in a minute. But when we talk about overtraining not existing, so basically every coach of every professional athlete in the world, including the guys who win the Super Bowl, who win gold medals in the Olympics, athletes with $10 and $20 million contracts, their sports physicians and their trainers who are making them champions, who make millions and millions of dollars, who are more successful in life than every single competitive bodybuilder in the entire motherfucking world. The thousands of athletes who are more successful and make more money and are more famous than every single pro bodybuilder right now, hands down, their coaches and their medical doctors don't know what they're talking about. They're wrong. That's basically what they're saying, that it doesn't exist. Because overtraining syndrome is a medically diagnosable condition that sports physicians are actually trained to be able to diagnose successfully. It's an actual documented medical condition. These guys might as well be saying, ain't no such thing as cancer. Cancer doesn't exist. All right, that's how fucking stupid it is. Really, it's a medically diagnosable condition in athletes that sports physicians are specifically trained to know how to recognize. Overtraining syndrome is very, very much a real thing. So that shouldn't even be subject to debate. This is a non-issue. So if they're claiming it's not real, they're basically just an idiot. You should probably be very, very leery of listening to them because they're provably wrong. I mean, medical facts prove them wrong. They might as well be claiming diabetes doesn't exist, cancer doesn't exist, whatever. They might as well be claiming the earth is flat. There's no point in listening to someone like that. Now, the people who have an interesting argument are on the other end, the ones who are standing here saying, okay, overtraining is very much real. I understand that. Good, we're all in agreement. But I don't think the average person is at risk of training hard enough to reach an overtrained state. Notice I didn't say overtraining, I said an overtrained state. Because that's what we're talking about. It's a state of being. It's a state, a condition that your body reaches. It's not an action. So, here's what people need to factor in. Yes, a lot of professional athletes can train at workloads that the average person can't before they reach overtraining. Why is that? Number one, genetics. Most people who are very genetically gifted athletically have very high work capacities. They recover faster than other people genetically. When we talk about genetics for sports, being genetically gifted, that is a trait that universally applies to most sports. Faster recovery times, people who recover better from training and exercise. People who just have a higher work capacity and they recover faster from training. That is elite athletic genetics. Those are the people who are capable of competing in multiple sports at the pro level. You see some of these crossover athletes. See athletes who did baseball, basketball, and football in college or in high school, and they went state in all three sports. Those guys, they just cross-trained all these sports and went state, and then they get a scholarship in one of them, okay? That is a genetically gifted athlete. That is someone who is blessed with an unusual recovery ability, and it's a trait. And guess what, guys? Genetics matter. Genetics matter, and when you tell yourself they don't matter for sports or athletics, you're living in denial. It's delusional. They absolutely matter. Your inherent genetics and gifts and talents absolutely matter in the sports world, in the training world. Now, Another factor, most of these athletes have been training for many years and slowly building up their work capacity under trainers. They've built up work capacity over time. Had they pushed too far beyond their work capacity earlier on, they could have reached an overtrained state while doing half the work that some of them do now. They've built up work capacity by training for it, in addition to the genetic gifts. All right? You got that to factor in. Then you factor in drugs. All right? Let's deal with reality. Most athletes use some sort of drugs to enhance their recovery. That's the real world. Drug testing is not that hard to beat. I've done tons of videos on it. No need to rehash that out again. This is not something we need to debate again. That's real world. Most athletes use something to help their recovery a little bit. All right, it makes it harder for them to overtrain. There's a lot of factors at play here. Another one, how about their lifestyles? And this is where we're going to get to the problem with the average person. The average professional athlete doesn't have a lot of stressors. In fact, some of their coaches go out of their way for pro athletes to make sure that they don't have stressors. In some countries, Olympic athletes, their social life is limited so that they don't have outside stressors interfering with their recovery. Think about that for a moment. Stress will make you overtrain easier. Stress will make you overtrain easier. It takes a toll on the body. Have you guys ever been extremely stressed, gone through an extremely stressful time period of your life to where you experience many of the symptoms that overtraining syndrome has? Did you get fatigue? Have you ever been so stressed with your life that you had insomnia, you lost sleep over it, that your blood pressure went up, your resting heart rate went up due to stress? Those are medical symptoms also of overtraining syndrome. There's an overlap because overtraining syndrome has to do with chronic stress hormones being elevated excessively as well. That's an enormous component of it. Normal people have to go to school, they have jobs, they have careers, they have other factors in their life that causes stress. Do you think that having a stressful job, dealing with a career, dealing with bills, dealing with debt, maybe your mortgage isn't always going to be paid on time, you're hustling sometimes to make sure your mortgage or your car note gets paid, that's normal day-to-day life for people. A lot of people, most people out there are on the grind in some way. That elevates stress hormones. They go to school, they're a full-time student, they have midterms, they have finals. How about your relationships? How about getting heartbroken? All these little things, your day-to-day stressors in your social life, your family life, your school, your career, your bills enormously affect the stress hormones in your body. There is no way that a normal person who has normal day-to-day stressors and financial stressors and bills to pay and actually lives paycheck to paycheck, or has a stressful job, or has midterms and finals to worry about, there is no way you can train even remotely hard as a professional athlete before the stress builds up on you and your body reaches an overtrained state. Those things contribute to how hard you can train. All right. So when I talk about people running certain programs, I point out that having a fairly low stress lifestyle is kind of important for certain types of training programs. Why? Because you will overtrain. The additional stress of your day-to-day life and your career and your job can push you into an overtrained state 2 to 3 times as fast. People with normal stressors have things that affect their training, and it's unavoidable unless you're independently wealthy and you don't have to worry about shit. You don't have bills to worry about because you're a trust fund baby and you already own a house. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have a house. No, you own your house. Unless you go and buy your new Lamborghini every time you want one, you have financial and career stressors to worry about. You cannot train as hard because your recovery will be impaired by these things. This is one of these things that I know that guys have nothing going on in their life when they come and tell me they lift weights hard 6 days a week. They're in the gym an hour and a half a day, 6 days a week lifting. I can tell you right now that person has nothing going on in their life. They probably don't have a stressful job or a career. they might not have a whole lot going on in their life if they're able to do that. That's a dead giveaway. I mean, no offense, but you guys will see what Chris Jones does and try to emulate him. Do you think Chris Jones got stressors to worry about outside of making YouTube videos? He's banking. He's admitted he makes well into six figures. He makes well into six figures. All his bills are covered. He doesn't have financial worries. Now, he's got business worries because he's on the hustle. He's on the grind. Chris is very, very business oriented. If you've ever had a private conversation with Chris, and I've had a few, he's very business oriented. He's about making his money. That's why he's good at it. But do you think he has financial worries? Do you think he has to worry about if his bills are going to be paid next week? No, he's good to go. He's got plenty of money in the bank. He doesn't have the same worries other people have. Is he worried about midterms, finals? None of that. Therefore, he comes and trains the way that he trains. And a lot of you who have these other concerns to worry about, you might not be able to do what he does without overtraining. Because life stressors absolutely enormously impact your recovery. So when people say, well, because pro athletes train so hard to overtrain, none of you need to worry about overtraining, it's a non-issue. Bullshit. The only people who don't have to, who can get away with that are people who are maybe high school students who don't care about their grades and don't have to worry about girls. All right? But if you have actual serious college classes you're taking, or particularly you have a real career and a job, and real life stressors like a mortgage to pay, and a job that you have to get to on time, and an asshole boss or deal with asshole customers, yeah, overtraining is very real for you. And you damn well better be aware of it. And if you're not, then best of luck to you. Overtraining is going to knock you on your ass. So when you've got people who talk about overtraining is not real, you better step back and ask, and they can train just limitlessly. You better want to step back and ask, what sort of stressors does this so-called expert have in their life? If they're really saying that, maybe they don't have as many stressors as you do. And you're going to get a little dose of reality when you try to train hard 5 or 6 days a week, and you've got real life stressors to worry about, and when it catches up with you, your whole life's going to suffer. When you do overtrain, your job's going to suffer, your family's going to suffer, your career's going to suffer, your school grades are going to suffer, because overtraining syndrome will bury you, and it will make you irritable and an asshole and lethargic, and you will not be on the top of your game in any aspect of your life when it happens. It is very much a real thing. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.